Okay, I'm going to freshen up these battery wires, battery cables here. So as you can see, the cable here on the grounding strap is looking a little bit frayed. It's seen better days. The other ones are okay, but they do look like they could use a refresh. So I got a new cable that goes between the two batteries, and I got a new grounding strap over here. The positive lead that goes all the way up to the starter motor, that one I'm going to just refresh the terminal on it, and other than that I'm going to leave the cable as is. But that's it. Let's get to work. Okay, so I've gone ahead and disconnected the ground strap, and I've also loosened up these two screw terminals here so I can pull the cable out, since I just made a small hole in this battery box here, so it's very tight tolerance, and I can't get this off the post. So I'm going to just pull it through, pull the wire out first, and then I can take the post off. Same thing over here. I'll just pull the wire through, and then I can take the post off. Alright, so up underneath the car there's a retaining screw in the center of the two. You got the battery boxes. Here's one, and here's the other. And then up, obviously, inside there's the cable coming through. And then up in the middle above the drive shaft there's one retaining screw that holds the cable up out of the way, and that is a 7/16 bolt. So we'll take that off and we'll pull this cable out. Okay, the battery grounding strap comes through the battery box and is connected with the 1/2-inch nut and bolt. You just have to use a spanner on one side and then your ratchet on the other side to get it loose, and then you can pull that grounding strap right out. Alright, in case you're wondering how much cable to get when you're replacing these two, it's about, let's see, 19 to 20 inches for the cable that goes between the two batteries, and then about 7 inches to 8 inches with the terminal for the grounding strap. This is definitely a sign of a cable you want to probably replace. Sheesh, I can't even believe that this lasted so long. But you can see how thick the cable should be, and then the stuff that's actually being in contact with those screws is maybe 5-6 strands out of the possibly 20 that are inside here. And on the other end looks a little better, but still this is not a good connection. So the grounding strap looks a little bit better, but still it's old and frayed, and you can see the wires coming out of the terminal end here. So this is all junk, needs to be replaced. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Alright, now that the wires are out, I want to make a good connection point for this grounding strap. So I'm going to clean off some of this rust, and then actually clean up the entirety of the battery box, because it's kind of nasty in there. And so I'll clean up the rust on both sides of where it'll make connection here, and I'll add some new put some new hardware, and then I'll whatever I scrape off down to bare metal, I'll add some paint over the top of it to protect it from rusting. So let's get on the cleaning. Okay, so I'm replacing the stock wire. This is the one that came with or was on the vehicle, obviously, with these new cables that are already come pre-crimped. This is a 2-foot section that I got from Amazon.com, and it was fairly inexpensive, and this will work great. It's actually 2 AWG, so it's thicker than the stock cable that was 4. I believe this is 4 gauge wire. So I'm going with 2 gauge wire for the battery tie cable, and then the grounding strap is also a 2 gauge. So I got one length of 2 feet to tie the 2 batteries together in series, and then I got a length of 1 foot to replace this grounding strap. Now the 1 foot length obviously is a lot longer than this, but since it's 2 gauge, I needed the extra length to make the turn to be able to connect it to the battery box mounting point.
Okay, so for the negative earth strap, I made a new contact. I cleaned off some of the rust that was there, and then I made a nice strong connection with a new bolt and nut to the new cable that I got. And then once it was all together, I put some I used some spray paint, rust preventative spray paint, to cover up the bare metal that I had exposed. So now I just need to connect the wire. Actually, I'll connect the grounding strap last, but as you can see, if I can get it, the cable will loop around something like this, and then go through the hole, and it'll connect onto the post like that. So again, I'll leave that for later and connect that last.
Well, originally I had thought that I wasn't going to replace the positive cable going to my starter, but this is what I found when I started pulling things apart. The previous owner had spliced a bit of cable together because it didn't reach, so now it's got this frayed connection that is maybe half the wires are actually touching in here, and then the end of this thing is just completely tore up. So this wire is gone. I'm gonna replace this whole thing. So I bought an 8-foot section of 2 gauge wire. Actually, I might have gotten 1 gauge wire, because that's what I could find in a 1 foot length or an 8 foot length. But I'm gonna go ahead and replace this positive cable as well. In order to remove the positive cable, there's several attachment points underneath the body. So starting at the back, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it goes through this loop, which is a pain in the butt to get off. And then the even bigger pain in the butt to get off is this one right here. Believe me, I've done it before, and it is a pain with a tie bar, or not tie bar, but torsion bar in the way. So that'll be fun. And then there's one more up behind there, and then up, it goes up to the starter motor after that. So this is the next part of the project. Just go ahead and I'll drop off all these hangers and remove the old cable. Okay, this pain in the butt bolt to get out. So this is the best way I've found. So the small pair of vice grips, and your actually this is 11 millimeter, because these bolts have been replaced from the stock. But yeah, you just kind of fit it in there, and then hopefully
hopefully you can get enough leverage to start turning it.
Okay, up in the engine bay, getting the positive cable disconnected is a simple process of just taking off this 1/2 inch nut, and then you can slide the terminal off there and take the cable out through the bottom. Would be the easiest. So that's what we'll do. Alright, so for those of you wondering how long the cable is that goes back to the battery boxes, with that small extension that the previous owner put on, it is 8 feet, about 6.5 inches. 8 feet 7 inches, sure. Problem is, I ordered an 8-foot cable, so I'm gonna have to. The way it was set up on my car originally was to have the battery oriented this way, so the positive terminal was at the back rear. Probably hence the need for this little 5-inch extension that he had on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reorient the battery so that my 8-foot cable will work, and twist it 90 degrees counterclockwise here, and then the positive terminal will be right here near the hole, so that I can connect the battery. The battery or the cable I got will have terminals pre-soldered on, pre-crimped on, so it should fit. 8 feet should fit with the battery in the right orientation, but I guess we'll find out. It's that old saying, measure twice, cut once. I trusted the internet, and looks like I got bad information, or I was reading the wrong page. So we'll see how that works. Alright, here's the cable that came off. This is the 8-foot cable that goes to the starter motor from the positive side of the battery, and I'm not sure if you can make it out in the picture, but it's got some corrosion in here between the wires, some green oxidation or corrosion, so that's not good. It was not a very good connection in that splice that was on the car, so I'm glad to be getting rid of that. Alright, so I got the batteries reinstalled in their battery boxes underneath the rear seat cushion, and you can see here how I have it set up with the new terminal ends and the new cables routed right through. Everything is nice and tidy, and over here on the positive side, just waiting for the cable to come in the mail. And a good thing I bought a 2-foot cable for this attachment one, or the between cable between the two batteries. The 2-foot one fits perfectly from the rear on this end over to the front side here. So that's good, and everything's all set and ready to go. Okay, so I got the new positive cable in. I went with red color. The original is black, but I knew I was going to be covering it with the sheath anyway, so I got this protective sheath that I used for my other wire loom project, and I'm just going to cover this 1-gauge cable that I got in this wire loom as well, in order to just protect it from grit and grime, and extra a little bit of protection from rock debris or whatever is underneath the car getting turned up by the tires. So what I'm going to do is, I got 8 feet worth of cable, and it's going to be just about perfect length. I'm going to start running it from the front, so I'll feed this up and attach it to the starter, and then I'll start running the line here along the body, and I'll end it at the back. I want all the extra wire to be at the back, so in case I end up going from a 2 6-volt battery set up to a single 12 volt and I end up moving the batteries around, I'll have the extra cable back there where I need it in order to make the connection wherever it needs to be for the new battery. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll start that running and I'll show you the steps as I go along. Okay, so I ran the new cable for the battery all through the clips all the way up to the front. It would not fit in here, so I just cable tied it here and up here. And then I had to remove some of these rubber holders or spacers here. I had to cut some of them off to be able to fit the heavy gauge wire. But it's good and it fits. 8 feet is just the minimum. I would have probably rather have gotten a little bit more. 8 feet a couple inches, but it's, unless you go ahead and go to a place that makes their own cable and cuts it for you and puts the terminals on it, then it's hard to get one that's a weird length. So 8 feet will fit to the battery box that's on the side, same side of the motor as the starter, so the right side. But it will not fit. 8 feet will not reach all the way over to this other battery box. So if you want to put a single 12 volt in the left side battery box, then you're going to need probably 9 feet total to fit that. And up in the two battery boxes, you can see the nice clean new install. Looks a lot better, and all the wires are nice and there's no more frayed ends, so that's good.